In this video, we're going to show you how you can summarize numerical data in three ways using data bars, color scales, and icon sets. And, they say different strokes for different folks. Depending on the situation, you may want to use data bars, you may want to use color scales, or you may want to use icon sets. So what we have in the file NBA salaries temp is we've got 3 copies of the same data, salaries for NBA players, probably around the year 2006. And so we want to show you how you could summarize this numerical data 3 different ways. And it's just a click of a mouse. It's really simple. So data bars, how do they work? Data bars will take in a given column of numbers. The largest number will have a data bar that fills the entire cell. So in this case, the highest salary was Shaquille O'Neal. Did he have the highest salary per pound? I'm not sure, but he made $20 million. And so somebody who made $10 million would have a data bar that filled half the cell because 10 is half as big as 20. So how do we create the data bars? Control Shift down arrow, we select that data, we go right here, Control Shift down arrow, conditional formatting, and we go data bars. And I can pick any color, blue is fine. Shaquille O'Neal is in row 153, so you'll see when I go there that the data bar for Shaquille O'Neal is going to fill the whole cell, right there. And somebody who made around 15 million should fill about 3/4 of the cell. Okay, so that's how data bars summarize numerical data. Now, what do data bars do if you have negative numbers? Let's take a look there. Okay, here we have just a bunch of numbers I made up. Some are positive, some are negative. Now, how does Excel treat negative numbers in data bars? It used to make negative numbers go to the right, which doesn't make sense, but starting, I think, in Excel 2007, things work out much better. We misspelled negative. Okay, so now if I select this data here and I go conditional formatting and I go data bars, that looks great. See, the negative numbers point to the left. The more negative, the more we point to the left. The more positive, the more we point to the right. That's really the right way to handle negative numbers. If you looked at basically GNP growth, it could be negative, for example. Now, another way to summarize this data is color scales. I should add, if you use data bars, you should widen the column. They look a lot better. You just widen a column like that. Okay, now color scales, often called the heat map. So what we'll do with the color scale is biggest number in the data set will be the greenest. And then the data will become a little bit less green, and then it'll fade to yellow. And then the smallest number will be the reddest. And then as they get a little bigger, they'll fade to less red. So that's a way to summarize data also. So I can select the second column, the same numbers, but instead of data bars, I can do color scales. There they are. I just picked green, yellow, red. I'll show you how you can edit this. But the people who don't make much money, they have red for low salaries. Then Shaquille O'Neal would be the greenest here. You can see there are 20 million. And then it's going to be a little bit less green as I go to the people who made less money, the Kevin Garnetts, the Jason Kidds, etc. Now, if I go to Manage Rules, you can see what's going on. Click in there. We can go to Manage Rules. And you can see it's fading from green to yellow to red. You can edit that. You double click, you could change that around. Okay, you could change basically the speed at which it changes from green to yellow and red. Or you can always edit a rule by double clicking on it or click Edit Formatting Rules. And we'll see that with icon sets in a moment. Okay, so probably the most popular way to summarize data sets is with icon sets. So basically, let's look at the same data in column F. And so we can have an up arrow for people who make a lot of money, a down arrow if they don't make much money, a half up arrow if they make sort of a lot of money, a flat arrow if they're in the middle, a half down arrow if they make not horrible salaries compared to the rest of the league, but in the lower portion. So now we'll select the data here and we'll do icon sets. So I would do conditional formatting and I would do icon sets. And there are a whole bunch of choices here. And these days, cell phone icons are very popular, but I'm still being an old guy. I'll use the arrows. Okay, so now we look at Shaquille O'Neal. You'll see an up arrow for Shaquille O'Neal because he had the highest salary. Okay, and we'll look at edit rules in a moment. And if I look at Jalen Rose in row 215, he has a half up arrow, even though he makes a lot of money. So that may seem a bit strange to you, and it does to me. So let's go to Manage Rules. I think he should have an entire up arrow because he's one of the highest paid guys in the league for this year. But if I would do conditional formatting, Manage Rules, Now you can see here, if I double click on it, it says percent, and there's a choice for percentile. And that's really what we want. I'll explain why. But what happens when you have percent with those icons? Let's take a look. Okay, basically those salaries go 0 to 20 million. And with 5 icons, it splits that area with percent into 5 different equally sized regions. So roughly 0 to 4 million gets a down arrow for salary, 4 to 8 million a half down, 8 to 12 a flat arrow, 12 to 16 a half up arrow, 16 to 20 gets an up arrow. Now what's wrong with that? Because there might be only one person who makes over $16 million and only one person would get an up arrow. You probably want 1/5 of the people to get an up arrow, 1/5 to get a half up arrow, 1/5 to get a flat arrow, etc. Now remember, Jalen Rose had that half up arrow. So now what I want to do is edit these rules. So I can go back to conditional formatting, manage rules. Okay, let's double click this. Now I'm going to change percent to percentile. So that'll mean the top 20% of the salaries get the up arrow. And I'm also going to change the icon sets. You can customize your icon sets, which is really cool. So I'll do these all as percentile. Now this will look sort of stupid, but it'll at least be clear. So instead of having that boring gray arrow, up arrow for people in the top 20%, I have to make that percentile. Let's make that 4 cell phone bars, which is what we're obsessed with in our lives anyway. And let's suppose when we're in the bottom 20%, instead of that dull gray arrow, we can make it a more exciting down red arrow. So you can totally customize your icon sets. Now, before I click OK, a couple of points up here. Sometimes a high number is bad. Okay, like if you looked at percentage defectives in a chip factory, that would be bad. So you would say reverse icon order, so the up arrow would go to the low numbers. You can also show icon only. But now if I click OK, you'll see the people with really high salaries in the top 20% get 4 cell phone bars. The people really low get the down arrow. So Jalen Rose will change to the 4 cell phone bars. Okay, so now if I look at the bottom here, you got these people who don't make much money. Oh, we'd settle for $400,000 a year, I think. Most of us. For playing basketball. A lot of people would play for free. Okay. But now if I look at Shaquille O'Neal, he's going to have an up cell phone arrow. It's 4 bars, I'm sorry. And then if I look at Jalen Rose, he switched from that half up arrow to basically those 4 cell phone icons. In other words, because I changed from percent to percentile. Now in the next video, we'll show you how you can create your own conditional formats using formulas. And this basically is a limitless option, only limited by what you know about Excel formulas.